Welcome to Bed and Butter, the hospitality podcast, designed exclusively for budding students and aspiring industry leaders. We're thrilled to embark on this exciting journey with you. Each episode will delve into the heart of hospitality industry with your host, Sean Riley, uncovering invaluable insights, trends, and strategies to not only succeed, but thrive in this dynamic field. The podcast is produced in collaboration with Southern Maine Community College. Listen to national leaders highlight opportunities for the active hospitality professional, students of SMCC's Culinary Arts program, as well as the L. Joe Van Wy School of Hospitality. This program is a labor of love, made possible with the help of the Communications and New Media Studies students. Whether you're sharpening your skills or stepping into the world of hospitality for the first time, Bed and Butter is your go-to resource. So let's dive in and spread the knowledge, one episode at a time.
I'm Sean Riley, your host of Bed and Butter, the hospitality podcast. Today's guest is Jamie Mulley, Corporate Director of Operations for Maine Course Hospitality Group. Maine Course is a New England-based company spread out over 8 states. From her humble beginnings as a server at the Ground Round, Jamie has risen through the ranks to become a senior leader, partner, and owner in a hotel company. We'll hear about her career path and learn what it took for a young woman to grow in this amazing business. Welcome to Bed and Butter, the hospitality podcast. Well, welcome, Jamie.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks for taking a break from your crazy travel schedule for this hospitality podcast. We're excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here.
I guess I have to be totally honest with everybody and transparent is that, I have worked with Jamie for a long time and I know her inside and out, like over 20 years. But I could probably tell you what she's going to answer to any of these questions and vice versa. She could probably say that to me. So in fact, I don't even need you here, Jamie. I can do this interview without you. Nah, why don't we go ahead? So you've had a 25-year career with the same company. Why?
Well, Sean, that's an interesting question. It all comes back to the people. And I honestly can say every time, I've been presented with an opportunity or the phone rings or opportunity knocks, I go back to the same thing, the same principle every time, and it's the people. I truly love what I do. I love the people I work with, and I love the owners. And other than that, I can't tell you exactly what it is. There's no specific thing. It's just everything.
Well, that's kind of cool that you have that situation. Not everybody has that. And, it is exciting that you have that kind of thing. And I thank you as an owner as well for being that way. Now, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about your career? Over 25 years, first of all, you don't look old enough to be there 25 years.
Thank you.
But how old were you when you started?
Well, I used to say 12, but now I'm going to have to say 8.
Yeah.
If you're telling everybody that I've had a 25-year career.
So just give us a little bit of your career. Not every little thing you did, because I'm sure you've plunged a lot of toilets and served a lot of food, but just some of the basics of your career.
Well, my passion for hospitality truly began probably 30 years ago with my first job as a barista. And I absolutely loved that job. In fact, that's probably where my love for food and beverage began. I truly enjoyed the interactions with the guests and the people, and I honestly learned so much from my first boss, Peggy. And she really inspired that in me and drew out that passion in me. And that sort of launched my food and beverage sort of experience for the next 10 or so years. And that's when I found Maine Course when I was in the restaurants. So I spent 9 years with Maine Course in food and beverage and then another 10 with Maine Course in hotels specifically as a general manager. And then I landed the role that I have now as Corporate Director of Operations for Maine Course. I've been here 25 years, as you say. I think it's technically 26, but neither here nor there. We're not going to split hairs over 1 year.
Great. Well, what changed your mind to go from the restaurant into the hotel? You've done both. Both are great careers, but how did you happen to transition?
Well, Sean, you already know the answer to this. Somebody believed in me and somebody saw that I had something to contribute more to Maine Course. And I was approached and asked to leave the restaurant where I was and to go to a hotel, my very first hotel. I'd never worked in a hotel before. I was Slightly apprehensive, but excited for the new opportunity. So when my boss asked me, if I would consider leaving the restaurant that I was at and going over to the hotel side, I was eager and excited for the new challenge and the new opportunity. So it was absolutely something that I was ready for, and then I jumped on.
Well, I think one of the neat things about the hospitality business, a lot of the stuff you learned in the restaurant probably comes through in the hotel. I mean, it's a different product, but there's a lot of the similarities.
Oh, for sure. Everything translates perfectly. The vernacular is different. I found myself not saying 86 this and that. However, all of the same concepts, translated perfectly from guest check average to average daily rate. So it was really easy for me to take everything that I had already learned and apply it in a new atmosphere. I was really, interested in truly understanding the hotel operation. So I found myself when I landed at the front office, really wanting to understand everything. I worked 7 to 3, 3 to 11, night audit. I truly needed to understand how everything worked. And it didn't stop there. So, once I had sort of figured out how this front office deal works, I, ventured into housekeeping, maintenance even. I learned every discipline that I could possibly learn in that first hotel, whether it was accounting or human resources, revenue management, sales and marketing. I mean, there were so many things to learn and do, and I just embraced all of it. I was so eager to learn all of these new opportunities that I had. Were endless. I mean, I am so grateful for that opportunity and being asked to make that leap.
It's interesting you mentioned the maintenance side of things. I still remember a picture of you when we were opening the Clearwater Beach, Florida hotel with a tool belt on and a drill, and you were drilling out a lock so we could get that back and going to replace the lock. And I mean, and there I was just freaking out that we can't have a lock. What are we going to do? And you just grabbed the tool belt, took the drill, drilled it out, replaced it with a new one. So I guess those things you learn in that first year of your business really paid off. It helped us out. We opened a hotel.
Well, I guess that just reassures every hotel guest in the future that we actually can get back into the room.
Yeah, exactly.
It might require some power tools.
Yeah. So Jamie's still one of the people we call when we have someone locked in a room. She doesn't drive to the place, but she helps us through it. So Jamie, I recently read something about a dream job, and they said that is one of the best suited for a person, an individual, with their passions, their talents, and their goals. What's your dream job? What would you say a dream job for you is, or have you had it along the way? Was it cooking fries? Was it drilling holes in a door?
Well, that's kind of an interesting question. I think I found my dream job. I think I'm already doing it. And I can't tell you exactly what it is that I do. Specifically, there's not one thing, but the ability to help people, guide people through whatever the situation is. I love teaching. I love training. I love inspiring. I love mentoring. And I am allowed to do all of those things every single day. And so I'd have to say I found my dream job.
Great. I think one of the things that this podcast is being done at SMCC, and they have programs here. So we're talking to some of the students that are here, perhaps some of your associates that are here that might be interested in this kind of thing, or nationwide, and other students. So you can have an impact on people by what we talk about. And so in the back of your mind, when you're talking, think about, who our audience is, and that's who a lot of those are. So some of the things you were saying, that you did all those things. Quick question. Have you made any beds in the last year of your corporate job?
You better believe it. Hundreds. I don't think that'll ever go away. I enjoy bed making, so I will always raise my hand to help out in whatever situation, wherever I can lend my hand and offer assistance, whether that's onboarding a new associate or, welcoming somebody on their first day and just going along for the ride. Hey, let's make some beds, whatever it is. So there's probably been a few weekends where I made hundreds of beds and definitely thousands in the years I've been here.
Wow. Well, I had done that in my day. I haven't done it as much. I still enjoy going in and folding a fitted sheet. And if I can get it right the first time, they're just in awe that I can still do that. But there are other times I get all tangled up and they have to figure out how to get me out. But that's great. I think that's setting an example for people, and you're never too big for any job. And I think that means a lot to your team. And I think that's why you're successful where you are. We've all been impacted by people in our lives, both personally and professionally. Why don't you tell me about a person or a number of people that impacted your life in some way that made a difference? And I think people can relate to that. And I think our listeners will probably want to say, maybe they'll think about that. And I do ask our listeners to think about who's impacted your life and maybe even call them and tell them. So Jamie, tell me about what's impacted your life or who.
Is this where I talk about you in the third person? Because that's going to be a little awkward. I think that the most impactful people in my life have to be my parents, first and foremost. They taught me about work ethic and hard work from a very young age. My mom brought me along with her to volunteer in our community, starting probably about the age of 4. And so it was instilled in me very early on the importance of community and the importance of giving back. And I think those are some of the values and sort of foundations of who I am as a person that has allowed me, sort of to continue to drive that forward. Now, I'm guessing you're probably asking about...
Wait, before you go any further with that, your mom, just so the listeners know, I do have personal contact with her mom. We text occasionally, Facebook message each other. And, anytime she has a problem with Jamie, she reaches out to me and vice versa. So, Julia, if you're on here, just know that the secret's out.
I'm sure she's going to love that. Great. So you're probably asking more about who inspires me, from a career standpoint. And I have to go back to Peggy, the very first boss I ever had, taught me the importance of kindness in the workplace. And I was having a really off day. I burned the sticky buns, gave back the wrong change, handed the wrong person the wrong coffee. It was just one of those days where if it could go wrong, it went wrong. And she was there watching my every move. And surely I thought I was getting fired. Like this was the day. But her humanity, really, that, we're all human and we make mistakes and this is just a part of life and it's going to be okay. And, she was just so kind and compassionate. And I will remember how I felt that day and how she made me feel after that experience of that shift. And those are the things I take with me 30 years later.
Well, I think they do say that, people remember you for how you made them feel, not necessarily what you said. And so she really did take that to that degree. That 30 years later, you freaked out on your high school job and you remember that today. And I would imagine it helps you in your career today.
Absolutely. Kindness and patience, 2 of my mantras.
And you need a lot of that in the world we live in now. Great. Obviously, you've reached a real high level of success for the average person in the industry. You're a partner in Maine Course. You're an investor in hotels, and you're a senior executive. So what's success look like for you? What does success look like?
Well, success looks different for many different people. And I think Mr. Marriott probably coined it best, right? Didn't you have a book that success is never final? So, I sort of think about that conceptually and that, never stop learning, never stop growing, never stop giving back. And so, success for me is those kinds of things. It's setting a goal and reaching for it. Even if I don't meet the goal, that I've, sort of strived or pushed forward to get somewhere and I'll just set a new goal and start again if I don't make it. And that's okay. I think some of the most important things I've learned is when I didn't accomplish something that I wanted to, and I had to sort of reset and figure out how to do it again.
I think that's absolutely right. I think, I had some failures in my career and, like you said, failure is not final. It's something that you just step it up and move on to something else. And I think if you're a student, if you're an early hospitality person in the field, knowing that, you're going to screw up, it's okay. But it's not the end of your career that you screwed up. And as far as resetting your goals, if you're a student and you just graduated from SMCC or Husson or some other college, you got to set another goal because that's not the end of your career. I was a teacher for 8 years running a small 19-room motel. And then that place was going to be sold. I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? I got to move my family, a new baby and all. I found another place, did it again. So I think those are the kinds of things you just keep resetting and you got to be opportunistic. Like you didn't know you were going to be moving into the hotel business.
Oh, I had no idea.
And neither did I. And so it's the kind of thing you have to have your eyes open and be willing to take a chance and do something different. So I suggest to anybody out there that's early on in their career is just keep your eyes open and just keep doing the right thing.
That's interesting that you say that about, the students. And, that's probably, one of my biggest pieces of advice for them, is, whatever career or whatever, whatever you decide to do, when you're leading people and, you're coaching them through whatever their challenges are, the most important thing is that we create a safe space to allow them to tell us about the mistake they made. And I think that's something that Peggy did for me, is that, while she was there for all of the mistakes that I made, I feel the same way about you, Sean. Like I could pick up the phone and say, hey, I really messed up. I probably wouldn't use the word messed, but I really messed up. And you create a space that is safe, that I can tell you whatever mistake I made or whatever challenge I'm having, and that I know that you're not going to look any differently towards me about the particular situation, and that you're just going to help guide me through whatever the challenge is. And I think that, as we grow in our careers and as we lead people, it's really important that we cultivate those kinds of relationships to create that safe space for them to talk about whatever mistakes they made or whatever their challenges are.
So let's talk about success in your personal life. What's successful in your personal life? I know a big success that happened just the other day.
Oh, yes. My son got his driver's license. So I think that is, wow, my personal life. So I have two kids. One is 16 and one is 19, and they are absolutely my greatest success. And watching them grow and develop into their own little people, these humans who have big opinions, and it's just so fun.
That's inherited, Jamie.
I have big opinions. You and I don't always agree on everything. But I think that's what creates great dynamics, right? Like, it's important that, you have different perspectives. So I have great conversations with my daughter about, how she's going to save the world one plastic bag at a time, and, how she's going to live off the earth and make tea with mugwort. And I'm not even sure that she's making tea, because I don't think that's what you do with it. But so, yeah. And my son, the same. He's got big opinions, and he's very interested in video games and technology and AI. And, he's going to do great things.
That's great. So what in your life, tell me something you're really proud of.
Oh, my kids. Absolutely. So proud of my children. 100%. I think there's lots of things to celebrate. I'm proud of the family. I'm proud of, our company. I'm proud of so many things, and that I'm able to contribute in lots of different avenues. I'm able to give back and, make an impact. And I guess at the end of the day, that's just it. Make an impact.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's really cool. And I remember visiting when your son was born. And I went over the house, and there's a 2-year-old girl running around, 2 or 3-year-old girl running around the house, brought some kind of little jumper suit or something for your son. And then I saw the picture of his license. I'm like, oh my goodness. We have worked together for a while. So following up a little bit with the success, we talk about successes in your life and all. What kind of success habits do you have? How have you been able to do this? And how can you suggest to a student, to a new person in the career, or to just someone starting out in the world? How can you suggest success habits?
Well, creating good habits is important. So obviously, I've already talked about goal setting. Absolutely. All the time. Always have goals. Always be striving for something. My favorite is sort of old-fashioned, and it's just a to-do list. I've used lots of different apps for to-do lists. I've used Outlook for my to-do list. I've used all kinds, but there's nothing more satisfying than actually crossing off the item with a pencil.
Oh, absolutely.
On something that was on my to-do list. So, having a clear direction of what I need to accomplish in a day is what has, been most helpful to me. I've also found that in order to get it all done, I actually have to use Outlook. I have to use calendar blocking. I have to assign however much time to whatever task or thing it is that I'm going to need to do. Now, the challenge with that is, the things on my to-do list are never something that can be done in one block of time. They're sort of bigger projects that take, sometimes weeks or months. My current project, working on a relicensing agreement for one of our hotels at Marriott. I think I've been working on this project for close to a year now. So there are several pieces of it that have to get done over the course of a very long span of time. I like to use, the reoccurrence function for things that I know I have to do every month so I don't miss doing something that I know is important.
And it's interesting. I get little invites when I'm supposed to be doing something that pop up in my box. What you mentioned about the paper thing. I don't know if you use these, but we had these checks. All our checks come in 3. Well, we used to do checks. We don't even do checks anymore, but we had them, and there was like a third stub that we always had left over. So it's a perfect spot for a to-do list. And I still use those. It's probably been 30 years I've used those check stubs as my to-do list. Now that we've gone digital with payments, I don't know if I'm going to be able to survive. I'll have to come up with a new thing. And I don't want to buy paper for scrap paper. So I'll find a company that can donate it to me.
There you go. There's always junk mail. I mean, you can just use the back of the envelope.
Yeah. So those are your success habits and how you've gotten there. How about some nuggets for our listeners who want to build their hospitality career? What short little things can you say? Do this, don't do that. Do this, don't do that. Isn't there a song about that? But go ahead.
I don't sing, so you're asking the wrong
That's right. I think it is
person.
a song too. Yeah. Oh, funny story. I said, Jamie, if you can't get your answers to these questions to me, no big deal. We'll wing it. And that's what I texted. But then she saw it and she said, I don't sing. And I looked at it and I said, oh, I said sing. And now Jamie has a lot of great strengths. In the top 10 of her strengths, singing is not one of them. So we are not going to sing today. We could sing, Jamie, if you want. No? Okay. So go back, off some nuggets for our career.
Well, when I first started, I found I had a short attention span. Like I needed to learn what I needed to learn and I needed to move on to the next thing. So I found reading, hotel magazines or business journals or publications were very short articles that I could, take something away from or learn something from. I read a lot of books on leadership, listening to podcasts, just find something that you're interested in, whatever it is. I mean, my daughter tells me you can learn everything you want to know on TikTok today. So, I mean, maybe there. Right now, I'm reading some Brene Brown, Dare to Lead. I'm very interested in leadership and how to develop myself to be a better leader. And I think, as we grow in our careers and our position in life, we can reread the same book 10 times and take something different out of it over the course of time. We're always at a different place in life. So I think that my ability to lead and my ability to develop my own leadership style can continue to evolve, for the rest of my life.
I think you mentioned earlier, you just got to keep resetting. And that's not necessarily a goal, but you can't just be stagnant. You have to continue to grow. And the way you grow is different. As you mature and as you become more seasoned, maybe you're not growing for the sake of growing your own self, but growing to help others. And I think we talk about, my career is my runway is a little shorter than yours. But I think, we can give back. And I think this podcast is an example of that. You're giving back. I'm giving back to people who are aspiring professionals. And I think to me, that's a great thing. And I think a lot of people in the world do that when they get to a certain point in their career. So I thank you for doing that with us too. And that's, that doesn't mean you're old. It just means you're more seasoned than many.
Well, you already told them I've worked here 25 years, so they already know.
And you said you had a 19-year-old daughter. So
oh, I let the cat out of the bag.
There's an algebraic equation where if anybody wants to figure it out, please call in. So what kind of nuggets can you give to these people starting out?
Find your passion. Find the things that make you happy, and do that. So, when you think about hotels, just in general, you're looking for your first job, third job, it doesn't even matter. Think about all of the opportunities we have to learn so many different things in the hotel industry. If it's not front desk or guest services, I understand that's not for everybody, but we have opportunities with finance and accounting, revenue management, sales and marketing. Just think about all of the different avenues of careers that you can be exposed to simply, by starting in the hotel industry.
If you were going to start with if somebody came in, they wanted a leader's position right away out of college, SMCC, Cornell, anything, and they said they hadn't worked in a hotel, what would you tell them?
I would probably just tell them my story about my first hotel experience, which you all gave me. Jump in, both feet, learn everything there is to learn. And I completely understand that I don't know it all, but I learned enough to move to the next step and learn again and start again. And once I had, several pieces of the puzzle to put together, I could then see how, I could impact multiple people and multiple teams and multiple departments, by one simple decision. And that could be a good decision or a bad decision. I could have negatively impacted all those departments, depending on what the situation was, but understanding how they all fit together and how they all impact each other and that together we move forward. I think, that's probably the story that I would tell them about all of the great things that I was able to learn in the industry.
Now, you've worked for a lot of good leaders, obviously Peggy, and probably some not so good ones too. But, give me something that, without mentioning a name, especially if it's a negative one, something that why they were so good or why they were so bad.
Well, Sean, since most of the leaders I've worked for and with are Maine Course employees, I can't imagine that you would have hired anybody that wasn't amazing. So I'm not going to have a whole lot of bad things to say. However, I have seen, heard, witnessed from my daughter's career paths in her first few jobs, and, the types of leaders that I probably wouldn't want to emulate. And having to coach my daughter through those difficult challenges with, how to interact with her boss, it definitely puts me on the other perspective. And I think that, it comes back to respect and kindness in the workplace. And it's so simple. The golden rule, you treat each other the way you want to be treated and everything is going to be just fine. But when you don't cultivate relationships and you don't create safe spaces to have meaningful conversations, we're not moving forward together.
I think when a lot of people start and they're faced with those crazy bosses. I mean, there are people, I don't know how you do it in this shortage of labor, how you can be a crazy boss and still stay in operation, but they have them. But I think you've got to be a kind person. You're right. You're absolutely on track. You've got to be kind and you got to take care of people. And there are people out there that don't do it. And I think if I was starting out in a career, like a lot of our listeners would be, I'd say try to find some place that fits who you are. You're still going to have to work your butt off to move on to a career. And, I had no education. I wish I had. I had education, but not in hospitality. But I think I wish I had. It would have sped up my career for sure. But I think it's important to find a place that you fit. And obviously for you feel you fit. You went to another company, you could probably have been further along, but maybe you wouldn't have felt as good as you do. And I think that's the balance we have to do in a career is say, a fit. Find someone that you fit with.
You have to find the company that you fit with. Absolutely. You have to align your values, what's important to you and what's important to them. And I think that, that's certainly something that resonates with me. And that's something that's just very easy for me because Maine Course values, family fun, integrity, respect are all things that are my values. So, I guess that's my advice to the students. If they haven't done some soul searching on what their own values are, they need to understand what's most important to them. And then find an organization or a company or that's going to fit. At the end of the day, that's, those mutually, beneficial relationships are the most successful ones. And, it's the people I work with every day that I love what I do. I absolutely can't imagine doing anything different.
That's good to hear. I chose to stay with Maine Course as well, and my partners, Pete and Paul. And I think one of the reasons is because of the relationship, what their belief systems were. And obviously they were good business people, but they had that other stuff. And I probably wouldn't have stuck around if they didn't have that other stuff, if they didn't care about all the people, if they didn't have fun. They were a couple of jokesters. They just have a blast. And I think that's why we get along so well. We could bust each other all the time. Speaking of having fun, so anybody who's been in the restaurant business, which you have, and a hotel business, which you have, has got to have a funny story or two to tell. Have you got one or two or any good stories? They good, clean ones. Don't mention names. Don't mention hotels. We don't bash guests or anything, but what would you say?
I've always said when I retire, if I retire, someday I'll retire. I don't know when. I'm going to write a book because the stories that we hear every day, you can't make this stuff up. The most recent one I had was the story of the cat. The guest brought their cat to the hotel and then the guest left the cat at the hotel. And of course they called looking for their cat and we couldn't, we searched the room, tore the room apart, turned the beds upside down, dresser, moved all the furniture. There's no cat in this room. There's no cat. I'm not saying that she's crazy, but
the story I heard was that she might have been.
But I might have thought it. So wouldn't you know it, the next day the cat turned up.
How?
Well, a different guest found the cat wearing a costume, like a little sombrero and booties.
At night?
Yes.
Oh my God, talk about being scared.
But the best part is the guest who found the cat wanted to keep the cat, wanted to take the cat home with them and adopt the cat. And the guest who found the cat couldn't believe that there was another guest who was looking for the cat.
Well, I mean, and that kind of hotel brand that person was in a market where there's a lot of witches and witchcraft, a black cat walking across your bed at that time of night. And then obviously some brands give 100% guarantee satisfaction. And if a cat was walking across my bed, I'd be ticked off. But then the person turns around and wants to adopt it. I mean, that saved you a couple $100 in room rate discounts.
For sure, for sure. I mean, I did connect him to the local, rescue agency so that he could definitely adopt a cat. But that cat, I did call the local police department, who did get the cat back to the rightful owner.
Wow. I can just imagine sitting in a witchcraft town and having a black cat walk across your bed at midnight. Oh, that's a good one. So Jamie, you hire a lot of people as leaders, in your role now. What traits do you look for in a person? What's important to you if you're looking for it? Because I know we've got someone out here listening that maybe is working in a housekeeping department or working at a front desk somewhere or is going to Cornell or SMCC. What things do you look at? If they want to get a job from you, what do they have to have for traits?
I've mentioned a lot about, the things that are important to me, honesty, respect, kindness. We're in the hospitality world, and we take care of people, right? So whatever sort of stories you can tell me about, what's important to you and what you believe in that aligns with, taking care of guests or taking care of family or taking care of, however you can, sort of sell yourself on that to me is always a good thing. I think that, conversational interviews where we can draw out different stories and different experiences that people have that can sort of tell a story about who you are as a person. So for the students listening, when you think about going on a job interview, advocate for yourself, tell us what you can do and then show us what you can do. Those would be some things I'm looking for. Absolutely. When it's leadership style positions that I'm looking for, I'm kind of old school, I guess, in the thought process that I would never ask someone to do something that I haven't done myself. And when I was a new manager and a new leader, I would never ask someone to do something that they haven't seen me do myself. So I guess those are two takeaways.
Absolutely. I think that's a good thing. You can't step out of a role if you're not doing that job. And that doesn't mean you have to be proficient at it. I'm not proficient at doing fitted sheets or making beds. In fact, the last time I really was good at making beds when they had the shiny bedspreads, which you never changed anyway, way back in the day. And, those are easy. They covered up everything. Nowadays, it's a little better for the guest.
I also heard you can fold a mean pillowcase.
Pillowcases are pretty simple, but I can do that. And I don't put my chin on it. And for those of you people who've done housekeeping, you can't put your chin on the pillows. But I have been caught doing that before. So I think that's a great point. I think you got to do stuff and so I think anybody going out, if you're going out while you're going to school or before you get in, you want to get experience. You got to say, I want to learn housekeeping. Like you did as you moved through the ranks, you wanted to learn those roles. And if somebody doesn't do that, if you come out and you want to just move up, you're going to sit in an office, put your feet up at it, that's not happening in this business. I got a good buddy of mine who's one of our partners. He's Cornell grad, but he's made many a bed. He's plunged many a toilet. And a real admirable person. He's got a lot of skill sets, but he's done those things too, because he knows in order to get the respect from his team, he has to do those. So, okay, let's say I work for you, Jamie. Okay, I'm working for you now. What can you tell me? How can you help me improve my career? I'm a person that's working for you. And how can you say this is how you can improve your career?
Well, I guess I would assume that you and I have a great relationship and I already understand what's important to you and understanding that I already understand your strengths, your weaknesses, and you've already identified opportunities where you want to grow. And if I can focus on things that you're interested in helping you, take you from where you're at to get to where you want to be, then that's probably what I would be focused on in helping you grow your career. If I don't know those things, that's my first piece of advice. Have those conversations. Grab a cup of coffee, have lunch, together. Or if you brought your lunch, sit down, have lunch together. Talk about what's important to you. Is there anything I can help you do? Is there anything, any aspect of your career that I can help you with? And, it's about building relationships. And in building relationships, you help build people and you build each other. Everybody has something to offer. You can learn from everybody.
I think one of the hard things that I have is in my role, and probably you experience it too, is you got so many things and everybody says, what can I do to help? And I think that's great. But then sometimes it's much better said, I found a need and I'm going to try to fill it. And that's how I think I moved through my career. And I know that's how you move for yours. I mean, whatever it was, you took it on me. She still puts on a great show for our managers meetings or our company gala that we have with a couple hundred people. But it's because you found there was a need and you went to fill it. So I think all of those things are great for furthering your career. It's not just saying, I want this stuff, it's doing it. And then sometimes it's not just asking, can I help? That's important. But the next thing is, hey, I think it looks like we could use this in our company or in this role. What can I do to help it? So, and it doesn't matter what role. It could be a housekeeper, it could be a front desk person, it could be an engineer. So it's a good way to move your career. So, you got SMCC is a wonderful program here. And this is a cool little office they got here for this ocean views from the campus. Pretty cool. But I think they help prepare you for a career. Do you think education is important? She's bobbing her head. That's a silent yes.
Yes, I do feel education is important. You can become educated in a lot of different ways. I would say that, well, I'll tell you the truth. I spent 5 years in college. I changed my major 3 times. I think my dad was ready to wring my neck.
Weren't you going to be a geminologist or something like that?
Oh, yeah. I was going to be a geologist. I enjoyed the study of rocks and gems. I mean, who doesn't like diamonds? I mean, come on. Why wouldn't that be a great career choice for me? But it was not. So, yes, I changed my major 3 times. I was in college for 5 years. I did graduate finally with my bachelor's degree in business management. And yes, there's a lot of classes that I took in college that certainly helped shorten my learning curve. I came into the business world understanding what a business plan was and how to write it. I took business law classes and understood case studies and different dynamics in different industries. And, so I had a lot of education and background in things that were important. I guarantee you my accounting classes I use today still. I cannot tell you that my quantitative math elective was a good choice at the time, but I liked it. But neither here nor there. Education is important, and how you choose to get your education, is completely up to the individual. Could I have learned everything that I know today by working in the hotels? Yes. Would it have taken longer to learn? Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, is that that's a neat business we're in, that you can start off with no education and get your education through the career. But it does speed it up. And I think these things kind of give you the little extra push when you want to move a career further. So let's talk about, there's a lot of, you're also known as someone who's got a lot of vision. And maybe it's a crystal ball you have, but can you look into your crystal ball and talk a little bit about the next 5 or 10 years? What's going to happen in this industry?
Oh my gosh, I don't have a crystal ball. But what I can tell you is the importance of the next generation of travelers, right? So we already know what they're looking for. We already completely understand the experience that they need, right? And you're seeing that today with the emergence of all the lifestyle brands that are truly creating experience for the guests. Brands that are providing the amenities that the guests want and the type of service or style, aka technology. They want the mobile check-in. They want the mobile chat. They don't want to have to pick up the phone. Nobody has a phone. I mean, they all have a phone, but they don't use it as a phone.
I'm going to take a stand that I want to get phones out of the guest rooms in the next 10 years. It's silly. No one uses them. Hey. Except when I stayed in a room over this past weekend. A bunch of people were making noise at night. So I know from the hotel business, I just dial the room number and I say, hi, this is Sean from the front desk. Can you please quiet down? And they quieted down. I think they were scared to death they were going to get thrown out. But those phones really should be gone, I think. Technology. So speaking of technology, you talked a lot about your son who's getting into AI. Do you see AI creeping its way into the hotel business?
Oh, absolutely. We need to embrace all technology. It is here and it is evolving faster than we can grasp it. But it's definitely something we need to embrace. And it's something that we can use to help us. We just need to figure out, in what capacity.
I know they're using AI for revenue management. There's a lot more that brands. I just came back from a brand meeting, and that's one of the things they talked about is the use of AI in those things. And I think it's not going to take away jobs. It's going to make our jobs better.
Yeah, it's going to make us smarter,
Yeah.
right? Those algorithms, absolutely. When they work great. Sometimes we need to provide a little bit of the human element to sort of curb it to make it what we really need it to be. But yes, absolutely.
You know, I do know you well, and I admire you, and I'd be interested in how you can help others grow a little bit better. I know one of the things you talked about in your before is that I'm kind of a creature of habit, and your recommendation to me would probably be less habitual. And the story goes back to you know, there's a story. I used to I'd get up at 4:30. I'd get up at 3:35, talk to my business partner at 4:30, and then get to the gym, park in the same spot, then go into the gym, go to the same locker. And then my wife told me, Sean, you got to be more spontaneous. So I was. So every Friday I decided I'm going to do something different. I'm going to park in a spot at the gym.
The same spot.
Oh, yeah, you do know me. And then I was going to go to the same locker. And it's funny. Everybody talked about Sean and Spontaneous Friday. Even people at the gym would say, Sean, you parked in the wrong spot. So I'd go back and move my car. So, but I was habitual. But how do you think someone like that's going to stretch? How can people stretch a little bit?
Sean, you are a creature of habit, and I have known you for a very long time. So my advice to you is to be more spontaneous, right? Take the trip, buy the car, do the thing, whatever it is that you want to do, just make an impact. You know, life is short and tomorrow is not promised. You have to live in the today, and you have to do the things that are important to you, important to your family. And so that's my advice to you in that arena.
Well, thanks. I do need advice now and then. And I will not only be spontaneous Monday through Thursday, I will be spontaneous on Friday, and I'll park in the same spot maybe next time.
It'll be the same different spot, though.
Well, yeah, it will. Yeah, obviously, it is. Yeah. So is there anything you'd like to end with? You would like to say to any of our audience, our people? There's your chance, Jamie Mulley, seasoned hotel veteran that people are looking up to, and they say, what does she got to say for me? What does she got to say that can help change my life?
Never stop giving. Be a servant leader. Positively impact lives. Everything you do has an impact on someone else. Make it a good one.
And you know, that question wasn't in there. I just threw that at her, and that came out pretty good. That was great, Jamie. And I want to thank you very much for being here. And I know that the audience will love this. And it is our chance to give back to the community of industry that we've grown up in, and that people have done this to me. There wasn't a podcast when I started, so I couldn't listen to it, but that's what got me where I am today, is the relationships I had, leaders outside of this industry and in this industry. So I thank you, and I thank you for the students and the hotel employees who are all working day in and day out. And thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Sean. Thanks for the invite.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Bed and Butter, the hospitality podcast produced in partnership with Southern Maine Community College. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so that you don't miss any episodes, and have a butterful day.